My name is Mohammed Rashid. I'm going to be talking about budgeting. So first of all, what is budgeting, right? So like a lot of people think budgeting is something they do when like they're short on cash, but that's the wrong way to start. If you start when you're short on cash, how are you gonna budget, right? So, or maybe you associate like budgeting with people who have money or people who have something to budget. Also incorrect. Budgeting could be used for us college students. For example, it could be used for people who are newlyweds trying to plan out their wedding. But like more importantly, for us as college students, budgeting could be very useful because even if you don't think you have anything to budget, or if you're like on limited resources, if you just start planning out your expenses monthly or bi-weekly or however you want to start it, then in the future you might have more to spend, you might have more to save, right? So positive approach. So people like when you think of budgeting, people might think it's like something that's boring or something that like maybe if I start budgeting now, right, that I won't have, I'm gonna limit my resources. Let's say I'm gonna only spend like this much on dining out per week, and I might not enjoy myself that week. Or let's say if I start budgeting, I might not have the money to spend on what I want to spend, right? But if you start budgeting and you start planning out your expenses, a positive approach to think about it, maybe to start you or help you keep on that budgeting plan, might keep you more motivated. That way you might have more money in the savings in the future, or you just might have more money to spend for that week in general. Here we're gonna go over like 5 steps you can take to help yourself start budgeting. Step 1 is gonna be evaluate your financial health. Step 2 is gonna be define your financial goals. Number 3 is gonna be develop a plan of action. Number 4 is gonna be implement your plan, and then number 5, probably the most important one, is gonna be like review, reevaluate, and revise your plan. So first step, and examining your current financial situation and making a plan based off that. So like, we're all college students here, so it's gonna be kind of difficult for us to budget, right? We might have like a lot of high expenses, and we might have like low resources, low funds. We might not all be working, or if we do, we might be working like the $8, $9 an hour job, and it won't be much but just pocket money, right? Also, how much money you're making goes into that, and your spending habits are pretty important. Like, are you a spender? Are you a saver? What are you spending your money on? How do you spend it? Do you have a savings account? And if so, how much money is in the savings account? Also, like it'd be helpful like if someone started a savings account for you beforehand, or if someone didn't. That all takes into account your financial health, right? Define your financial goals, right? So everyone has different goals, short-term and long-term goals, and the best way, I believe, the best way to achieve your goals would be write them down, right? So write them down, short and long term, and then when will you need money to reach these goals? Because at the end of the day, I mean, you are budgeting, so you're gonna have some allocation of resources, some funds to budget for. If not, then after that, you're gonna have to revise when you finalize that, because this changes. You might be working 1 month, and next month you might not if you're a student, or I don't know. Even if you aren't a student, you might have a job 1 month, or you might not. So this is always flexible, and it should be fluid. So develop a plan of action. Like I said earlier, like this stuff isn't all concrete, and that's why I feel like a lot of people who start budgets don't really finish their budgets, is because like they feel like it has to be rigid and structured. And if you just keep your budget like flexible and you plan for like life changes or the unexpected, that's the best thing to keep your budget on track and to keep you on track to just finish your budget for the month or for the year or however you want to achieve your short-term or long-term goals. And number 4, implement your plan. So like I know it sounds kind of stupid to say like just implement your plan, but like I know a lot of people that don't stick with the progress or stick with their goals when they write them down. And that's very common. And just maybe keep them on your goals and work towards them. Maybe keep them on a note card. Maybe put them on your desk, or pin them up every night, or I don't know, however you want to keep track of your goals. But just always keep track of your goals and always work towards them. So the last one would be review, reevaluate, revise. So lastly, like I said earlier, you're gonna have to be flexible with this plan, right? It's not gonna be concrete. It's not gonna be structured to where like if something happens, you're not gonna be able to like just on the dot move it around. So like let's say if you spend too much money this month, what are you gonna do next month? You're gonna readjust and you're gonna evaluate yourself off that. Also, be prepared to formulate a new plan. You might have to scratch the one you have, which is fine. It's totally fine. That's okay. A good rule of thumb I like to use is the 50-20-30 rule. This one is pretty common, right? Budgeting monthly forces you to look past your like bi-weekly schedule, right? So if you're budgeting not off your payment, not your payment, if you're not budgeting just off what your last paycheck is, then it forces you to look into the bigger picture, right? So the 50-20-30 rule is you spend 50% on needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on savings, right? This is from Elizabeth Warren's book, All Your Worth, The Ultimate Lifeline Money Plan. Very good book, I do recommend. So basically, what it states is like, let's say you're making $500 a month, right? That $250 is gonna be your 50%. You're gonna be spending that on your bills, right? You're gonna spend on like whatever bills you need to pay for that month. That $150 is gonna be for your wants. Your wants are gonna be like stuff that, I don't know, I want Starbucks today, or I wanna go get a new pair of shoes, right? That $150 is gonna be for your wants, and that $100 you're gonna put towards your savings. So like, another example, like $3,000. Let's say I'm making $3,000 a month, right? The $150, well, $1,500 actually is gonna be, again, for your bills. Let's say you're making your mortgage payment, car payment, any kind of payments. Again, $900 is gonna be for your wants. Obviously, you're gonna have a lot more to spend there. So like, I don't know, you want a new car, you start doing that. Or the savings, actually, the $600 is gonna be towards your savings, right? So needs, I'm gonna define the needs a little bit more for you guys. So bills, mortgage payments, car payments, groceries, stuff like that. Like the needs do not include the wants, right? So you're gonna have to distinguish yourself between your needs and your wants very distinctively, so that way you're not dipping into your wants, or you're not taking from your needs and dipping into your wants, if that makes sense. Wants, spending on like what's not essential. So it's very important to keep your wants like just your wants. So you're not dipping into your needs. Like I said earlier, this includes like dinner, movies, sporting events. The wants category also includes like upgrades, right? So like if you wanted to get a burger and you didn't get a McDonald's burger, you got like a burger from a really expensive steakhouse that was like, let's say $14 more than the burger that was from McDonald's, then that also is included in the wants. Or a better example, let's say you're buying a car, right? And you bought a Mercedes instead of a Honda, more expensive than the Honda, right? So that would be an upgrade technically, so that would be included in your wants. Savings, so it's 20% should be allocated to the end of the month of your savings, and this can include like debt payment if you need to, but savings is pretty common here, pretty straightforward. 20% is going to go to your savings. If not, then I mean, what are you going to be saving at the end of the month? Apps. So personally, these are my two favorite apps. I use them right now. You guys can download them. They're free. They're called Mint and Clarity Money. Both apps help track your budget. So the Mint app is probably my favorite one. That one you can kind of adjust every month what you want to put in your savings. You kind of have it kind of has it laid out for you, and you just put every month how much you want to put for, let's say, dining out. Let's say groceries, gas. It's very fluid. It's a very nice app. It's also free. So both of these apps are free. I recommend you both download these apps. They're great use. Some mistakes while budgeting. So not asking for help, just asking someone to hold you accountable or set yourself up. Could be your girlfriend. Like for me personally, I use my girlfriend to help me become accountable for myself, because she's honest with me. So I would recommend someone that's close to you, that's not afraid to tell you what you need to not spend on, or like what's your spending habits, or what's your saving habits. Someone that can be kind of honest with you and tell you what you need to stop doing, what you need to start doing, right? And occasionally treat yourself, or else you might risk binge spending. So this is very important. So a lot of people, when they start their budgets or they start creating their plans, right, they become very strict or very rigid, and like they feel like, oh, this is not for me, right? This is too laid out. I need to have a little more fun or something. So treating yourself out occasionally, not like a big spend, right? But like just treating yourself out occasionally. You know, like going out, something like that, going to get dinner, going to get movies, something small, so that way you're not at risk of binge spending. And breaking your budget and not adjusting to fix it. So a lot of people, they might break their budget for a month or something, but that's fine, that's common, right? So all you gotta do is adjust to fix your budget for the next month or for the next 2 weeks. Things to remember, budgeting isn't only for poor people, so the sooner you start, the better it is, right? I mean, we're college students here. If we all start budgeting, we might all have more funds to save in the future. We also might have more funds for the next couple weeks or so. Budgeting allows you to make the most out of your money by making short-term and long-term goals. So the sooner you start, again, making these short-term and long-term goals, the more defined you are going to be with your character, with your spending, with your saving habits, and you might figure out yourself a little bit sooner than someone who just started budgeting when they graduate college. They might not know too much about themselves and their spending and saving habits. The apps, like I said earlier, those 2 apps, really great apps, both free. I recommend downloading them. Keep track of all expenses, just not the big ones. That's a very important one. So a lot of people, when they start budgeting, they only think about the big expenses and they forget to write down small ones, right? It's very important that when you're budgeting to write down all your expenses. Or else you're gonna lose track of your spending, and when you come up like $100 short, maybe because you're buying a pack of gum at the store, every time you're going to the store, well, like you went to the store how many times that month, and it added up to like what, $100, then it's a big spend, right? And lastly, your budget will evolve, right? So like, right now I'm 21, my budget's gonna be different than when I'm 30. So over time, having to evolve your budget is gonna be something that you're gonna have to kind of learn by yourself, and you're gonna have to be flexible, like I said earlier.